Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Hashem and Ayman. Thank you for listening to the Lighthouse Conversations. We are currently on a short break, and we will be back later this month with a brand new episode. In the meantime, I wanted to share one of our favorite episodes from 2023. This is a conversation I had with my friend Ayman Fakoussa, co-founder of the Qode. I spoke to Ayman, who runs a PR firm, about the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur, why we're so attracted to the environment in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and we talked about our own friendship turned business relationship. I have been chasing you for 15 years now to do this?
I mean, really?
We've had all the constellations. We're going to do it, you and I and Dipesh, you and Dipesh, and I'm out of it. And
Yeah.
Chirag does it. I mean, we tried all the constellations. Now we're here.
Yes.
We're so happy to have you. I have so much
Thank
to
you.
cover. You run your own business, and we'll go into the details of that. But I want to bring you back to the moment, how many years ago now? 13 years? 14
It's
years?
been 13 years.
13
yeah.
years, exactly.
Yeah.
When you started the business. Because to me, there must have been a thought process of you're betting on yourself. Obviously, you have a co-founder, Dipesh Depala, but let's focus on you for a minute.
Mhm.
Did that thought process go through your mind? I am doing this for me. I'm betting on myself. I think I can succeed.
Yeah.
Or did it just pass through and just happened?
Well, it's interesting. So I always had the idea of starting my own business, and I worked on so many different business plans and like opening a concept store. Like, I was
remember.
inspired by Colette and like wanted to do like a mini Colette here, and I wanted to open a restaurant, and I had so many ideas always.
Why? Where did that spirit come from?
I mean, it came from, I think, business school for sure.
Okay.
I was in McGill, at business school, and that one of my minors was entrepreneurship, and I was always inspired by entrepreneurs. I always looked at like other people and that excitement of starting your own business and being your own boss. But we'll get to that later because you're never really your own boss.
Sah.
But at the end of the day, it was always an interest.
Okay.
So after working at L'Oreal and then working at Villa Moda, when the time came that I knew my time was coming to an end, it was the end of the crisis. The company was going bankrupt where I was working. If you remember, we were both in DIFC at the time.
That's when I met you.
You were in banking, and
Mhm.
I was in fashion world.
And you guys were the highlight of DIFC. I mean,
We
Villa Moda
kind
was
of
the
were
place to be.
actually.
I remember being like, oh God, I'm going to get out. And then you'd be there and I'll come see you.
Suddenly there'd be like a troop of like fashion people walking through the
Exactly.
financial district, and everyone
Exactly.
was like, "Who are these weirdos?"
It was actually so much more fun then, but anyway.
Yeah, it was. So, at that time I knew that the ship was sinking, and I had the opportunity to either, jump ship, or I started thinking about working on my own business. And I said, well, I have the opportunity now to do my own thing. I had just turned 30, and
30 is young.
it was young, but not too young as well.
So
which
it brings
was
me
good.
back to that point, Yani. Was it just like naivete, a little bit of arrogance, a bit of both, none of it, and just kind of jumping in? And that thought process.
Yeah, I think it was like now or never.
Okay.
It was kind of like, let me do it now while I'm still a bit young.
Sah.
If I fail, I fail.
The stakes are not so high.
And the stakes are not so high. Also, I saw the need, right? So I was working for a multi-brand retailer, working with the brands, realized that they all needed support and they all needed the help of agencies. And we didn't have any agencies that really understood the luxury market, that understood what these brands actually required. Also, having worked with Carla Otto, which now became my partners, as an inspiration, because they were my agency. So I had the pleasure of working with a global agency in other markets who promoted Villa Moda to those markets. So I saw what a good agency was. I worked in L'Oreal and worked with what were not so good agencies as well.
Yes.
So I had that experience of understanding what was good and what was bad. And starting an agency, but coming from the client side, was also a unique position.
And why did you decide to have a partner? Was it a conscious choice or a happenstance?
It's such an interesting question because partnerships are like a marriage. I always say, like, me and Dipesh have,
100%.
I mean, we've been working together for 13 years, but it's really like a marriage. I mean, you have a
Totally.
partner as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean, the only thing missing is me and Henny going to couple therapy, but yeah, it's pretty much,
exactly.
pretty much, it is a marriage.
Exactly.
For
I
sure.
mean, yeah, sometimes I feel like we need couples
Yeah,
therapy,
man. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it really makes you realize that commitment is a long-term commitment. And I've seen a lot of good friends of mine enter partnerships and it doesn't work out. So 13 years later, I think it's such a testament to
It
the
really is.
strength of our bond, of our friendship, of our trust for one another, our mutual respect for one another. That's super important. But back to your question.
Were you this close? Sorry, I'm just jumping in. Because, I mean, in case of Henny and I, we had worked together already.
Yes, I
for a
remember
long
you guys
time.
worked in banking
So
together.
there was, not going to say tried and tested, because we hadn't worked as partners in a business we own. We had worked in a company,
Yes.
EFG. But certainly we already had a taste for how each one operates under pressure. Were you guys close or no? Or that closeness happened throughout your partnership?
So actually, we knew each other socially.
So
we
that's a double
later
whammy.
found out that actually my sister and his brother went to university and were actually best friends. But that we found out after we started our partnership. And my sister pretty much lived at the Depala's house when she was at AUD in Dubai. But actually we really didn't know much about each other at all. I saw Dipesh started doing some PR for other brands, and I started this at the same time. And I kind of saw that synergy between us. Like he definitely has a lot of the social aspects, which and has been in Dubai for since his family since the 60s.
Yeah, he grew up in Dubai.
So he grew up in Dubai. I have that in Saudi, I grew up in Saudi, and for me it was like, wow, it's a good kind of combination. And definitely,
I feel like you have that everywhere. I mean,
what?
You have that network everywhere. I mean, it's not just Saudi. I mean, don't say
guilty.
I have yet to see you in any environment where you don't have your network. I mean, I can list, Beirut, Cairo, Riyadh, Dubai, whatever.
When I went on my sabbatical last year, I was the choices of locations were choices of locations where I wouldn't run into anyone.
Yeah, Sub-Zero.
And I was in like a small village in Guatemala,
exactly.
and I ran into someone I knew there, and I was like, "How is this happening?"
Yeah, no, I have never. I remember when you first opened the lighthouse, and I would want to have lunch with you, if you recall. Yeah. And we wouldn't be able to have lunch.
Oh no, we can't have lunch at the lighthouse. We have to hide somewhere.
Every 3 seconds, someone will come and stop you. And I thought I was very important. Like, I'm the owner, and they'll be coming our table. I'm like, and they'll all come to you. I was like, oh,
you got some competition in town now, Hashem.
Exactly. Yeah. So they tell you, generally speaking, not just in tech startups and startups, a lot of venture capital firms, when they want to invest in startups, they insist on at least 2 founders, because people statistically have found that solopreneurs, or whatever you call them, you're much more bound to fail as a solo entrepreneur.
Right.
Number one. Having said that, there's many other risks that come, of course, with co-founders. So, and if you go to these programs, I haven't gone, but I follow them. They give you a whole list of things that's almost like a prenup, right? Like, flush all of this out before you enter the partnership, so that, it's a very American way of doing things.
Right.
But I just wanted to say that because I don't think you and Dipesh sat there and made a big list of what could go wrong, right?
No, I mean, look,
feeling.
We've never really shared this before, but because it's you, I'm going to share it. No, I mean, it's funny. So when we started, actually, we kind of started on a light partnership. Where it was kind of like a partnership on paper, but the ownership was not split.
Oh, interesting. So you did test drive it.
We did test drive it. And, to be honest with you, we both came from fathers who had very bad experiences with
finance
partnerships.
Yes.
Right. So we both had that scars growing up and seeing, what happened to our fathers and so on. So both of us were a little bit apprehensive. And then after a while, when we saw that, that the business was going well, we decided to enter into a proper partnership.
Formal agreement
and formal partnership on paper and legally and so on. And it worked, and Dipesh and I, I don't know if it's like that with you and Hani, but like we're literally opposites in everything. Like if I like black, he likes white. If I like, if I want an office in this place, he wants an office in that place. Like it's literally we agree on nothing, but like it's crazy,
No, they have very different styles.
It's so funny because with that, it actually challenges us to see completely different points of view, and try to find compromise within those points of view.
But it also enables you, I think, to attract a roster of people to work with you.
Yeah,
it's a much wider network of people because you have those two styles, right?
Yes.
So I don't have to fit in here or fit in there. You can fit in whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, over the years now, we've of course, it takes a long time to like build those systems, build those ways of working and processes exactly that make or break a company, and especially with companies like ours, where now there's a lot of competition, right, in the market. COVID came and killed us all, and we all came back to life. It was a very challenging few years, and I mean, I think we look back and Dipesh and I sometimes just look at each other. We're like, wow. I mean, it's we've come this far. It's been such a journey, right? Like getting to this place where we had COVID come, we had many challenges come our way, and it's great to to kind of look back and say, we managed to navigate those difficult moments, and we stuck together, and that's.
But you stuck together. I actually remember you and I having many conversations during COVID, about strategizing about the business.
Yes.
And what I remember very, very well is that we were all, of course, anxious, but you were very calm. And
was I?
Yeah, you came across.
I wasn't on the inside.
I remember came across. I remember calling you one day, and you were staying with Dipesh at the time.
Yes.
And we had a bunch of chats, and you, I mean, let's put it this way: it was a very practical inclination of how you thought about it. You really, and I found that admirable, and helped me in my own business because it was very difficult not to make emotional decisions during that period of time.
Yeah.
These are people you worked with a very, very long time, the clients, when you would come back, no one knew anything.
I mean, I was talking to my competitors, like my direct competitors, because I thought, for me, it was really important to kind of align on, how do we navigate this very, very, uncharted waters, right?
What I find remarkable is a couple of things. One is you guys managed successfully to diversify your business. I mean, that's very hard.
Yes.
Typically, you start with one type and you get stuck because you get known as the agency for this.
Correct.
F&B, luxury, this, whatever it is. You guys, certainly in the UAE, have built a very diversified business. So while your background was luxury, and fashion and retail, you have now as much of a roster in F&B, say.
Correct. Yeah.
Was that conscious, that decision, or did it just sort of happen?
It just happened. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we were approached by Music Hall from Lebanon, right?
Yeah.
When they came to open, and we did like a wicked opening party for them, and we managed their PR, and we helped them strategize on how to remain open during Ramadan. They were going to close for Ramadan. I'm like, well, guys, why don't you just pivot, your business model to cater for Ramadan? And I couldn't get a booking during that Ramadan. I mean, they were full every night. So, and then they saw what we did, and then suddenly all the Lebanese guys who opened, like the Ad Minds and all of those guys started working with us as well. And then over the years, we've actually become one of the leaders in F&B. I was telling you now in Saudi, I mean, we have a huge portfolio of F&B clients as well, and we just kind of fell into it. But what I love about that is that I'm not an expert in F&B. I'm a foodie. I love restaurants. I have an investment in a couple of restaurants.
Yes,
you may know of one.
Indeed, I do know of one for sure.
Yeah, and so for me, it was like really interesting because I wake up every day, and one day I'm dealing with like a jewelry brand, or I'm dealing with a fashion brand, or I'm dealing with a restaurant, and I think they all now have really kind of intertwined, right? So you see
100%.
You see all these collaborations happening between, whether it's like Dior at Namos, and
it's the blurring of the lines. I mean, look at groups like LVMH, right? I mean, hospitality, F&B, fashion, retail, it's all. But I think for you, it's also instinctive. I mean, to your point, I mean, when I approached you to invest with us, and I was very honored when you accepted, it was that I felt that you're, as a person, You
Yeah.
have an instinct for this, right? It's not about, I wasn't an expert in F&B either,
Yeah.
but it was kind of, you
Yeah, I mean
understand.
that, isn't that funny? I mean, like,
Yeah.
so I mean, we should tell a bit of the story,
Yeah,
right? So you
sure.
came to the Hashem, you came to us for PR at
Yeah.
the time, and we were talking about it, and then you told me you were looking for investors, and I looked at your business plan, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
looks like a killer business plan. And although you had no experience in
And I told you
F&B,
this. I was
well, I
like,
knew that
yeah,
because I know you.
you knew me as a banker.
Exactly. But I knew you and Hani, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I invested in you as Hashem and Hani because I know how tasteful you are. I know
Thank
how
you.
passionate you are. And for me, it was like a no-brainer when I saw what you had in mind. I was like, actually, that was kind of what I wanted to open at some point in
I
my life,
remember.
right?
We
So
talked
I was
about
like,
this.
to be part of your, your vision and that amazing, journey that now, I mean, look at how far you've come, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how many
thank you.
locations do we have now?
We have 5 locations here.
5
and
locations.
two in the making.
Yes, one
Yeah.
in
One in Riyadh and one in Dubai
yeah,
Hills. So
yeah,
and look,
which
honestly,
is very exciting.
this was for me really important to have, and they were a very handful, few friends that we approached. And all of you said the same thing. I mean, look, I look at a business plan, but ultimately we believe in you. And I think that really gave us, so that's why I was asking this question.
Yeah.
In my case, at least, the confidence to say, let's go. If these guys who are all successful in their own right, understand the think we can do this, then we can. Because sometimes you need this. Like, it's not that I didn't have the confidence, but I almost needed someone else to come and tell you you can.
Of course.
And that's why I'm very, very impressed. I mean, when I did this, I was 40. You were 30. So
Yeah.
I'm not competing. Maybe I am. But I'm saying I still needed this validation of a few friends saying, look, we're with you. Go ahead. Don't
Do it,
overthink
yeah.
it. Boom.
Yeah.
And see where it goes. For you to do this at 30, team up with someone who you have not known for a very long time in a business that is very difficult. I mean,
And very competitive.
very competitive. There's no barriers to entry, really. Everyone with a network thinks he can start an agency. And
Yeah.
not to add a spoiler here, but also, and I think that is something that is very underappreciated, to be able to go from a start to actually someone to come in and take an interest, business interest in your business from
Yes.
outside. That is the
Yes.
ultimate validation. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
that is really the testament, right? It's
I mean,
like-
to be very honest, I mean, that's really been one of the most exciting parts of our, this
last couple of
endeavor.
years.
And really, it's been amazing because 5 years ago, we were acquired by an amazing group
Yeah.
of people. I didn't know them that well now, and 5 years into it, I mean, we're now, they've acquired several other agencies.
And it was a business. Sorry to I don't want to dwell on this point. This is still a region where startups of all sorts,
Yeah.
exits are far and in between. I mean,
Mhm.
almost non-existent. So most people like you and I that start a business have to contend with the fact that you might be, quote unquote, stuck with it forever. بمعنى إنك, it's not an obvious that if Ayman has success or Hashem, 5-10 years down the line,
Yeah.
someone's going to come and say, here's a bunch of money, I'm going to buy you. For you guys to do this in a business where ultimately your asset is a network
Mhm.
and a brand. I mean, you don't have hard assets. That was to me incredible to see.
Absolutely. No, and the thing is for us, aligning with such great agencies as Carla Otto, Bir Betak, a project in New York, Czar, a new social media agency that we've just acquired as a group, and Lefty. I mean, those are all really in their industries are the creme de la creme.
Yes,
and
100%.
and Carla Otto, of course, I knew from before. They were my agency when I was at Villa Moda.
Yeah.
So
It's also a great name, Carla Otto.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
fantastic.
she's also a fantastic
Yeah, I mean, I
woman.
don't know her, but I feel like
Yeah.
the name Carla, like, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
like, if I need to be like Carla Otto, like, that's great. Yeah.
Maybe we can change your name.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
I mean,
I don't know if there's. You might have.
Hashem Otto, Hashotto, and you have to.
Now you sound Japanese. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hashimoto, yeah. That's it.
Hashimoto.
Hashimoto,
I like
maybe.
that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
And then I'll team up with Carla Otto. I feel like maybe.
I mean, it's a natural progression. I mean, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. Yeah, no, but it's been really interesting, and now our group is really, funnily enough. I mean, I was just in Paris, met with some of the CEOs of brands and also the founders of the different agencies we work with. And a few years ago, I mean, this market was not really on everyone's radar. I mean, it was, but China was, far surpassing us. And now it's really interesting to see that actually everyone is quite interested, well, not quite, very
Of
interested
course.
in the region, in the GCC, in Dubai, in Saudi. And now that we've been almost 2 years in Saudi with a proper office, I think that also we have that first movers advantage
That's
of
huge.
yeah.
And that could have not happened without, I mean, you grew up there, so you
Yeah.
know this market. We both know how difficult that market is. I
Well,
mean,
you're married to a Saudi,
I'm married
so
to Saudi. Exactly. I know this market really well. And that's why when we're
Yeah.
entering now, and we talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
I am very clear about how challenging this. I welcome the challenge. I'm very excited that we're going to go there.
Yeah.
But I am under no illusion. So you hear all these people, especially in the F&B, but I'm sure in your business as well. Oh, it's such a huge market. We're going to go in. Everything will make a killing. It doesn't work like that.
No,
It
it
doesn't work
doesn't
like
at
that.
all. Yeah, it's a
It's
lot
a-
of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's like Dubai was, many years ago, and it's still like a market that's developing, right? And it's
Akid.
come very far in a very short amount of time.
But it's also not Dubai because the clientele and the customers are non-expats. I mean,
Exactly.
here
Exactly.
it's 50 different countries.
Exactly.
So we're like there, you have 20 million plus Saudis
Correct.
that are there. So it's a little bit someone like me in like Egypt, how I grew up. It's a much bigger market, but where you were really focused on Egyptians,
Correct.
not on expats necessarily.
Yeah.
There's an expat market, but not as big.
And the different regions, right? So you have Riyadh, you have Jeddah, you have Sharqiya.
Exactly.
Each place has a different
Almost like a different
nuance.
country.
They're different countries.
Yeah.
They have different ways of speaking,
Yeah.
different dialects. I mean,
Yeah.
so and that's something that, again, the brands really appreciate when they meet people like us, who have that experience and that
understand how
have
to
that
navigate it.
understanding of those different markets and the nuances of working within each city. And I think it's really, I mean, I have to say, I mean, you've been spending more time in Saudi, and
Yeah.
I go, I have meetings in ministries and different places, and I go and I walk through these ministries and I look around, and it's like women everywhere,
It's so
like
changed. It's
in
so different.
incredible positions, and it makes me so proud because my mom was
one of the first women to be professionally
doctor,
successful there.
yeah, in Saudi, and
Yeah.
and 1980, so I saw the struggles that she had as a woman, like navigating that, not wanting to wear a headscarf when she's at work because that's not what she wants to do, and
Yeah.
and she was tough, and she managed to kind of hold her ground as a foreigner in a country where she wanted to protect her rights as a woman, and she was really like an inspiration, I think, to many women there, and I it's really just exciting for me because our office is actually 90% women in Saudi, which is really incredible, and here it's about, I would say, 85% women. So it's incredible being in this region. Like, people would not expect that actually women take such an important role within a lot of industries, whether it's in a ministry or whether it's at the Qode or any other agencies. You see that there's a lot of like progress that's happened in the last few years.
I talked to Ayman about why they're so attracted to the entrepreneurial environments in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. That's right after the short break. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Conversations with Ayman Fakoussa. It's very obvious that you're just, I think it comes very naturally to you to connect with people, build networks, gain trust, etc. How much of it would you attribute to also your upbringing, but also your kind of hybridity? I mean, you have an Egyptian dad, your mom is originally Iraqi.
Correct.
You grew up in majority Saudi before moving to Canada.
Correct.
Right? So all of those elements were there in place. I see in you as an Egyptian, the Egyptian part, especially when we're around Egyptian.
And then Rami sees the Iraqi part.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It pops up, right? But I also see that hybridity and the navigation. And I've seen you in a lot of different circumstances socially. And it comes very natural to you. It's not forced, neither with Egyptians or Saudis or anyone else. Because I think they're all in you in some ways.
Yeah.
But growing up and now as you kind of do your business, are you conscious of it, or is it just a very innate thing?
I mean, look, people ask me where are you from, and that's the most difficult question for me because I actually have no idea.
Yeah, you have ties to all
And
those places.
I mean, now I'm from Dubai, as much as I'm also from Canada, as much
100%.
as I'm from Saudi,
100%.
as much as I'm from Egypt.
But my point is, I don't see you, for example, when you're amongst Egyptians, I don't see you trying very hard to be Egyptian. You're
No,
yourself,
yeah.
but it
I
totally
used to,
flows.
by the way. It's funny. Like
Maybe.
I used to try to blend in, like even change my accent to be more Egyptian
Maybe
or
pre
more
my time.
Saudi.
I've seen you in
Yeah,
all of those environments,
yeah,
and you fit in by being yourself. That's my point, and I found that
yeah,
very interesting. I mean, because that's very unusual
yeah.
to have
People,
that comfort. And all of those places, Saudis and Egyptians, first and foremost, are suspicious, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
like the friendliest bunch that are just like, oh, open arms. They sniff out the foreigners, right? The
Yeah.
outsiders.
Especially when you're Egyptian, but you don't speak Egyptian. That's not.
100%.
It
But even
doesn't flow.
Egyptian Saudi have its own dynamic.
Yeah,
I mean, being married to a Saudi, I mean, I know the dynamic on both sides, right? The early days of how Saudis looked at me, and then the Egyptians look at my wife because they're like, oh,
yes,
who is she? She's not
yeah, 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 yeah.
Egyptian. Because they're so like all of these dynamics come into play.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all face challenges, right? Like growing up, you're not from that country, or you're viewed at a different, like maybe social level
Yeah.
because of your nationality.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these things still exist today.
They will always exist.
Yeah, yeah, and but I think at the end of the day, when you're kind of firm in your beliefs and you're confident in who you are and what you're capable of, people stop seeing those,
That's exactly
those,
right.
yeah, you know what I
That's
mean? And
exactly right.
it's crazy. I know, like when you look around today, I mean, you look at how many successful people there are in Dubai from all different
All walks of
nationalities
life.
and
Yeah.
all walks of life, and there's some really inspirational people who came from nowhere,
Yeah.
even from the slums, who came from the slums of anywhere, whether it's Egypt or India or anywhere, and they're now like CEOs of companies, and that's quite impressive.
No,
When you
I
look around.
agree. I think in that sense, Dubai is a very unique place.
I mean, when people ask me like, why did you move to Dubai? Honestly, it's this place has given us so much,
You may
right?
have,
I mean,
may
it gave us a safety,
100%.
it gave us a place to live, it gave us everything's just done in a way that makes life conducive to work, right? And it's really an inspirational place. I love it. Like I love coming when I moved here, and when I come here and I see people moving in, like more people moving here from abroad. It's really amazing, like what they've managed to build in such a short amount of
100%.
time. I
And
mean,
today its repetition supersedes itself. When we came, there wasn't all that much yet.
no,
So we saw it, I remember all of us, as a landing point to build something
I
interesting.
was
And
coming for 2 years,
yeah,
like,
yeah, but it
and now it's
allowed
been
us.
20. So
They gave us license to create and build and dream,
yes,
and not feel that you're not part of the fabric. And I think that's really all what people like us needed, right?
and Saudi's doing the same now.
But
I
that's
have
what
to
I'm
say,
saying.
and that's what led me to open our office there. Is that, like, we own our company 100%,
Yeah.
and
So do we.
and it's been really like a very everyone's been so welcoming. Really, it's been such a great experience as well there. I think maybe a few years back it wouldn't have been the same.
But I also think that people like you and I enjoy being in places as they evolve, right? There's something
Yeah,
exciting about that friction that comes. So,
absolutely.
Dubai 2005 or whatever, when we first met,
Yeah,
I think was maybe not as organized or as well known as today,
correct.
but there was something, right, that caught
Yeah, the
our
spark.
attention. I think Riyadh today and Saudi in general feels that way.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I
I
mean,
think some people like you, and I think I find myself very attracted to that.
I'm
In fact,
drawn to that energy,
yeah, exactly,
I'm drawn to
exactly.
that energy of
To the
yes.
grit almost.
It's
Like
yes. It's the energy of yes. It's like everything is
mazboot,
possible.
mazboot.
Everything is possible.
Not
There's
everybody likes
nothing.
that. I mean, a
No,
lot of
yeah,
people
but
want, they're very happy to come to Dubai 2023, where things are kind of already in boxes to some extent.
yeah,
They don't want the chaos of the white canvas.
yeah.
I completely thrive off the chaos of the white canvas.
Absolutely.
You
I mean,
know,
even Dubai, it still
still
continues to
there.
surprise me,
It's
right?
very
Like
true.
it's
Very
it's
true.
like the palm, for example, was an area which I kind of was always like, oh, the palm's not
Me
for
too.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Blah blah
Look at
blah.
it today.
And now it's like I go there all the time,
Yeah,
and
we have a lighthouse on the palm. I mean,
you have a light,
like,
exactly. We have a lighthouse on the palm, and like I have several of my clients, like Sand Beach and Lorraine, which are like now fantastic restaurants that are doing
brands.
super well, and Sushi Samba as well. And it's incredible to see, because when I first went there to West Palm, I was like, I feel like I'm in Miami. Like, what is
Yeah.
this place? It's so, and I had no idea.
صح.
Like, and I live in the same city, so I think it's really amazing that Dubai continues to kind of reinvent itself. And Riyadh and Saudi, whether it's like people are telling me to go to Taif, and I'm looking at pictures, I'm like, it looks like Europe. It's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. And then you
Amazing.
have Al Ula and
My wife's family's from Taif.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh
So I've
amazing.
been to
I
Taif
really
many
want to
times.
go.
Yeah. Taif is like a whole different world, right?
It's a whole
And
different world, and
cooler
it's cold.
temperature.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
'Cause on
My
the
colleagues were
mountains.
just there like 2 weeks ago from Jeddah, and they were like, they were explaining to me about how interesting it is. It's a
Yeah,
different
yeah. Taif
climate,
is its
and
own thing.
yeah,
And people from Taif, I mean, I could spend hours on Taif, but that's a different conversation. I
yeah.
feel like
I really want to go visit it. So
no,
yeah,
Taif is very interesting. I'll come with you.
let's do it. Yeah,
And with some
let's
luck,
do
we'll
it.
bring May's dad so he can actually take us around. Okay, let's go back to you, which is anyway, I think one of your favorite topics. So we're fine.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, no, I'm totally joking. Unlike a mutual friend of ours, you're not one of those. Who can
Thank
talk about
God.
him. Yeah, exactly.
Thank God.
You know who we're talking about. But yeah, Rami. But anyway, so you've had this extraordinary 13-year journey, and I'm not really being, like trying to just sort of blow up steam up your butt. It's the truth. You had a successful opportunity to monetize this business as well. What drives you now? Because obviously you're still very young. You're full of ideas,
Hmm.
and obviously I know that you can stay with your business forever. But at some point, you probably had maybe either conscious, subconsciously, some points of things you wanted to achieve in your life, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's success in your business, financial independence, etc., etc. Once you've achieved those kind of things, what is it? Is it more of everything? Is it you start looking in different direction, maybe more spiritual? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I mean, look, you know that I've had this kind of spiritual journey
Yes,
over the
that's why
last few years.
I'm alluding to it.
And I mean, it's definitely something that's become part of my life, and I've managed to actually like combine the two. And I came to a point where I was like, there was a bit of this kind of
Dislocation, right?
yeah,
All of us.
dislocation. I was like, okay, so but how does this fit with this?
Run, run.
Yeah.
And it comes at a price. And when we're a bit younger, you don't think there's a price. And then you realize,
Correct.
of course, it comes at a price.
Correct. No, and and I think, one of the things that I've learned is I have to take care of me before anything else, and that, that awareness and that ability to say, now I'm going to switch off. Now I'm going to actually give myself, 2 weeks of being, whether it's in Bali or in India or wherever I choose to go, just to switch off, and sometimes even like detox completely
I
from my
remember, no
phone.
phone, nothing.
Yeah. And I took a sabbatical, remember, a couple of
Yes.
years back after COVID. I needed that break. And just having that awareness and having that support of my business partners, whether
To
it's
be able
Dipesh.
to do that.
Yeah, whether it's Dipesh or
Or
our
your new
partners
partners.
globally, they've been, super supportive, and honestly that made all the difference, because I came back with a whole new energy. I've been really focusing on developing the business, opening our Saudi office. I mean, of course, Dipesh and our GM and
Akid,
the whole
Akid.
team has been part of it, but I just had that energy to go and do it. And for me, that the thrill of the chase has always been my thing, right? Is
Yeah.
like I'll decide on a certain client or a certain sector or a certain,
You go after it.
and I go after it, and for me that's the excitement of like bringing that business in, so that's always been my excitement. The other part that comes with the spiritual journey has been like that dedication to charity and to CSR, and that's a true passion. And what I'm aware of now is that the more I work, the more we have money to give,
Yeah.
and the more that we're able to support. And
Why
and,
is this important to you on a personal level?
It's it's been since my
No,
childhood. Like
I know, and
I
since
don't
I've
know.
known
It's
you, you've been doing that. But
yeah.
I'm
Like since my childhood, if I see someone in need, I feel like I have to help them, and I don't know
mm,
where that innate kind of
mm,
like desire to help others
yeah,
comes from. But whenever I saw someone in need, like I would give them something that might help them, even if it was mine. I would give a toy or give money or whatever I had to support others. Um, it's always come naturally to me, and now being able to do that with my company, and personally, I mean, I continue to do a lot of things to help different communities and different people around the world, really. And it's really it's great. And even, I mean, obviously our the independence does a lot of their
yeah,
own
it
things
gives you
as
more
well,
freedom
but
to
it
do
but
to do. But you
yeah,
had done it always since I've known you.
yeah,
You had been supporting, and you weren't,
and getting people like you to write checks.
yeah, exactly, and like change, but and like for good reason. I mean, this is exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Actually, it's a very good point, because I think that generosity of the soul,
yeah.
certainly in your case, extends beyond writing checks and being involved in charities. I mean, even with your friends, and I think there's a very generous approach. And the flip side of that is with people like yourself, frankly, is sometimes they deplete themselves. And I think that's kind of part of that spiritual journey, maybe you're talking about, right?
I
Is
recharge
that,
myself. Yeah,
yeah, is that
yeah,
it takes too much out of you, because you
yeah.
really give yourself completely to everybody around you, whether it's your business, your friends, family,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, I get to points where I feel completely depleted
Yeah.
because, your time becomes not yours at all, right?
So,
There are days where we have like four or five different events. We need to run between different events, and you're constantly seeing people and giving your energy to people and so on.
yeah.
So that necessity of just switching off, like last January, I went to Bali and spent like 10 days by myself. Like I just didn't want, my even my best friend
Wanted
Tariq
to
was
come,
like,
and
can I come with you? And I'm like, I'm
I
sorry,
need
it's not, it's not
that's
that
great
kind of,
self-awareness.
yeah, I just need time for myself. And that's one of the biggest learnings, was actually like learning to be by myself, learning to take,
So hard.
a couple of times. Yeah, it used to be, I mean, you asked
Yeah.
me in my
I know.
30s if I would go on a trip by myself or like spend a week doing a spiritual,
I'm still terrible at it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was not even my vocabulary.
Yeah.
So, it's nice that we do that, and we infuse that also into the code, right? Into our, wellness becoming a very big part of what we
Do.
promote at the code, and making sure that people have time for themselves and for their families, and doing things like yoga or a wellness day that we're planning
That's amazing.
for our team. So, we do also try to um impart that knowledge on our teams as well. So that's a very important part of it.
And just kind of as a side point here, when you talked about your business, just occurred to me. It's fascinating that you guys, because neither of you like necessarily have a background in, finance or accounting or any of those things. And typically, when you're building a business, there is a big component of that. And you guys were able to build a successful, profitable business, take it all the way through for someone else to be interested in acquiring it.
We had our friends who were bankers
Yeah,
like you.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
but
you
it's
you helped
fascinating.
you helped me at the beginning,
Yeah,
Rami, and like all the
but
like
it
my,
was fascinating
yeah,
for me to see that like you had that kind of almost dared to do it,
yeah,
and knew that you know enough to understand to run a business. And it's also a testament to that's really not at the heart of the business, right? I mean, of course, the numbers have to add up,
yeah,
and you have to make sense, business sense. You have to make X, and you have to spend Y, and there has to be some difference in between the two. But it's not rocket science. And I think that's an inspiration for a lot of people who are creative,
yeah,
because a lot of creative people, I think, shy away from starting their own business precisely because of that. They're like, well, I know how to create X, but I don't know how to run a business.
correct,
And
yeah.
I think that with some um, just being common sense and getting support, yeah, it can be done. You guys are testament to that.
I think L'Oreal, that people always say that about L'Oreal, was a great school, like, and
Sure.
and and we at that time we got involved in everything from like forecasting to, you know,
So you
running
had
the
some,
numbers. And so I had a bit of that experience and learned how to use like Excel. And it's actually, I love Excel. That's my geeky part that
I
you
did
don't know
not know
about.
that.
Yeah.
You love Excel.
I love Excel. My whole life is on an Excel sheet.
That
It's
is so
insane.
funny.
Yeah. And my friends always make fun of that because that's like my geeky side that
Yeah,
comes
yeah, yeah.
out.
That I really did not know. That's
Yeah.
news. Okay.
Yeah. So you know, but really, it's like you, Karim Ziwad as well. Like
Yeah.
like a few of my friends who at the beginning really helped me with like the numbers part and understood like what do I need to do, what do I need to achieve, and like just to set it up. And then once you guys kind of like helped us get to that point, then of course, you know, things started
Yeah.
to run and you learn, right? But
And
definitely
you have good intuition. I think you
but
have very good
you have to
intuition.
ask people, you know, you have to ask for the help when you need it. And you know, I have to give a shout out to the Endeavor people. You know, the Endeavor
Yeah.
people,
Helped
you
you a
know,
lot.
helped a lot. And you know, it was a great like organization which you know, at the time Patrick Sharhoub was at the helm of
Yeah.
that, and he was the one who actually recommended us. And when we came in, it you know, we were so grateful to them and to Patrick for that opportunity to actually, you know, really zoom out of our business, have a board of advisors like, you know, Hisham from Grant
It was
Thornton
great.
and
Hashem is
Mansour
great.
Hajjar at the time,
Yeah.
as well as Noor Suede, and you know, we had like a real powerhouse of like a board of advisors who challenged us at
Yeah.
every step of the way. And you know, one of the things that Noor Suede used to always say is, so what if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? What happens to the business? And you know, it was like, it's a very graphic, you know,
Yes.
way to put it, but it was actually really interesting because it made you think, okay, so what happens if I'm not here tomorrow? Like I get sick, you know, whatever it is. And you know, we learned how to set up our business in a way where, you know, of course we're there, we have to add value to the company and our presence is very important, but the business has to run. It has to be
Yeah.
sustainable,
Yeah,
right?
you institutionalize it, and I think that
Yeah.
is
The
also a very
processes, like
very
we talked.
difficult thing to move away from founders.
Yes.
Right? To have a business that's not just Ayman or Dipesh, that's actually I'm hiring the code, and you know, yes, of course these guys are involved, but this is, you know, the company I trust. It's very interesting, by the way, this is a side note, that it's always the bus that hits you.
Why is it not a car or like
Exactly.
even
Or
a
like,
motorcycle?
or like you stumble on a stray cat and then the dog hits your head. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably more like that
We
than
should
the
come up with more
bus.
creative ways to go.
Yeah. I never liked the bus thing.
No.
Anyway, that's just a side, but like,
We digress.
yeah,
Yeah.
we digress. We'll go
But we
back.
always do.
We go back to, well, look, I mean, I have to say this has been fantastic. I'm personally very, very proud of what you've achieved, both personally and professionally. Personally,
Ditto. I mean,
before
I'm very proud of
professionally.
you. Look at what
Thank
you've
you.
done with the
Well,
lighthouse, and
thank
you
you.
know,
And
I have to say, I mean, it's impressive, you know, what you guys have built over the years. And
thank you. I mean, honestly, it's I mean, all of you guys are very much part of that DNA, and I'm not just saying that on the podcast. I mean, that is, I think, something that I'm very proud of that I've seen over the last, let's say, 10 years in Dubai, is that there is a group of, and some are close friends, some are not, but entrepreneurs in different businesses. And whenever I've reached out, and certainly I know this about you, there will always be one step from someone else. And people have been very, very willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what created this fabric in Dubai that didn't exist before and has yet to exist anywhere else in the Middle East at that level. I mean, Egypt has parts of this, suffering maybe today, but Lebanon always had that a little bit. Of course, Saudi is building it now.
yeah,
But I think that community was very grounds up,
yeah,
you know, and it's heartfelt. So all these names you mentioned today, they all have their own businesses.
correct. Yeah,
So
and
they
I
all
mean,
fully relate, right?
and impressive businesses as well.
And
It's like,
impressive businesses.
and you know, it's what you're saying is so true. I think what makes us different in Dubai and in this region is that willingness to help one another, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can pick up the phone, call anyone and say, hey, listen, I need to pick your brains
100%.
about this, and then people are willing to help and genuinely, right? It's not just like a, okay, yeah, let's go for coffee. They'll go out of their way to actually support
No,
and help
100%.
you.
I mean, you know, case in point, you were just saying Hisham, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
took the number from you, called him, sat with him at MOE, had a 2-hour conversation about my business where he gave me some great
Such
points.
a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I wasn't a client. I was your friend. I saw you having lunch with him at the Lighthouse, and I was like, can I speak to him? And you're like, sure, here's his number. I mean, that
Yeah.
is a testament. He's a
Yeah.
guy building his own business.
I mean, he manages a huge business
Yeah.
and has very little time. So,
Amazing.
that he carves out 2 hours of his
Exactly.
time to just sit
It's
with you.
super
Yeah.
generous,
Yeah,
but I think it's that feeling that you are part of a particular community,
Yeah.
and that without the support, it's actually not only harder to succeed, but less fun.
Absolutely. And we were talking about this earlier. Like, I actually value my competition a lot, and I really
You're good with that.
yeah, and I'm very different from a lot of people. Like,
You are.
I just met one of the big events agencies that open in Dubai, and they're going to compete a lot with our group. And I was like, well, it's great to have you in the neighborhood. They've just moved here, and I was like, let's have coffee. And on the contrary, like, I think it's so great, when
It's also a sign of confidence.
it's confidence, but it's also like, when you have people and people who you respect
صح.
in your industry, and there are people in
It's
DC
validation, right, to what you've built.
I respect them a lot because they're going to keep me in check.
صح.
They're going to make sure that I'm going to make sure that I'm always, striving to be better. And I wish the best for them too, because there's enough for all of us. But at the same time, there's obviously the opposite of that, where you have people who you don't really respect, but that's a story for
That's a whole different
another
conversation.
But that's what the buses are for.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But no,
The stray cat that's going to hit the dog, and the dog will be hit by the taxi.
yeah.
So, like, it's going to be something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, the buses.
So-
Yeah. One final question I have for you: do you see yourself always in whatever you do, whether it's in this business, something else in the future, at the frontier, always pushing the envelope? Because that's obviously where you like to be. Like you go kind of, So Riyadh now is sort of challenging market, new market, frontier. You've been there for 2 years. You came early. You staked your. Do you always see yourself doing that?
Look, I mean, I have always had the pleasure and the opportunity in every job I've been in, where I've been working for leaders, right? So when I was at L'Oreal, I mean, I was working for Lancôme at the time. At that time, we were, top 3, but in some markets we were number 1,
Yeah.
and we were always striving to be number 1. And I always that was built into my DNA from my very first job, right?
Interesting.
And Khadija, who was also Egyptian and my boss at the time, was really competitive, and she's incredible, and I'm really proud of her. She's built her way up in L'Oreal. Over the years, she's still there, and it was built into my DNA. And then Villa Moda was really like the most incredible retail
story.
concept that
100%.
ever that was ever made in the region, right? And even in Europe, people were talking about how
So cool.
incredible.
And so
it
early.
was like Colette was in Paris,
very
like,
much Corso Como, Colette.
Corso Como, etc. So I always had that opportunity to represent those leaders, right, in their own industry. So when when Dipesh and I built this company, we wanted to be the leaders. I don't know how to not be. And that's always where we strive to be. And proudly we can say that we're there, and we've been there, and we will continue, inshallah, to be there for the years to come. So the answer to the question is yeah. Absolutely.
I can't think of a better way to end this. Ayman, thank you for your time. It's been
Thank you.
fantastic fun.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
And,
well, it's always good to see you.
You too, Habib.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Lighthouse Conversations. We're produced by Chirag Desai, and our content director is Farah Al-Sharif. You can connect with us on Instagram at the Lighthouse_podcast for behind-the-scenes videos and more. Also, listen to all our previous episodes in your podcast app or at thelighthouse.ae/podcasts. We'll be back in 2 weeks.